All right, we're talking about how we can write an equation when we're given 2 points that would make a line. So you should have this paper in front of you, and to start, we're going to turn the paper to the back and just investigate finding the slope between 2 points. So flip your paper over, okay, and let's talk about this. Right now, and you should take these notes on the back of your paper as I do. Right now we know that slope is represented by the letter M, and we've described it when we talk about a graph. We talk about the rise over the run. When we talk about a table, we're talking about the change in y values over the change in x values. Now today we're going to be talking about 2 points. So for our example here, we're going to look at the points 12, 21 and 0, 15. We need to find the slope of the line between these 2 points. So we're going to do the same thing. The rise over the run doesn't help us really here because that's a very visual, and this is not visual at all. This is strictly algebraic. The change in y over the change in x is going to be very helpful for us because we need to find the change. However, it's not as easy just to count or to see the change on a table. So what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to expand this a little bit more. And we should know in math the operation change, how much does something change, is going to indicate subtraction. So we're going to need to subtract 2 things. We're talking about change in y. We're going to need to subtract the y values. Now, to keep this the same and make sure we do this right, we're going to actually label the y values. We're going to say 21 is y sub 1. We've used this sub thing before, and that just means it's the first y point. And 15 is y sub 2. We're going to do the same thing with the x points. 12 is x sub 1, and 0 is x sub 2. Remember, ordered pairs are written x comma y with the x value first. So now we're going to subtract. The way it makes sense to us is to take the second one minus the first one, because 2 minus 1. So we're going to say y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This is the formula or the method that we're going to use when we're given 2 points. So every time we do this, we should say y equals y2 or m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Remember, you should be writing this down. If you need to pause the video, please pause the video. Now all I need to do is substitute. I need to find the y2. So since I labeled these, I'm going to say y2 is 15, y1 is 21, and I'm going to come over to the other point, and I see that x2 is 0, and x2 is 0, x1 is 12. So now I'm going to subtract. 15 minus 21. Well, I could write that as 15 plus negative 21. Different signs subtract. 21 minus 15 is 6. The 21 is larger, so I'm going to keep the negative. So I have negative 6 over 0 minus 12 is really 0 plus negative 12. That gives me negative 12. Now we always want to simplify our answer. The first thing we should realize here is we have 2 negatives. So a negative divided by a negative is going to make a positive, and 6/12 simplifies to 1/2. So we found that the slope is equal to 1/2. So remember, our goal is to write an equation in slope-intercept form, remembering that slope-intercept form equals y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. We've just figured out that m is 1/2, so we can take so far and say y equals 1/2 x plus, the last thing we need to do is find that y-intercept. So we should remember that if we look at a graph, the y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis. So in this case, if I wanted to write a point for it, I know that x would be 0 and the point would be the b, or the y-intercept. So I'm looking that y-intercept is when x equals 0. So I'm going to look at my points. Do I have one? Well, here x equals 12, so that can't be it. Oh, here x equals 0. When x equals 0, y equals 15. So my y-intercept is 15. So I'm going to plug that into my equation. I get y equals 1/2 x plus 15. Let's do one more example. Okay? Let's say we had the points, 5, 6, and 0, let's go with 7. Remember, we need to find the slope and the y-intercept so we can write an equation. Let's start with the slope. Always y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. It's going to help to label your points. x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay? So y2 minus y1. y2 is 7, y1 is 6, over x2 is 0, x1 is 5. 7 minus 6 is 1. 0 over 5 is negative 5. So my slope is negative 1/5. The y-intercept, when is x 0? Well, here x is 5, so that can't be it. Here x is 0, so the y at that point is 7. So when I put it together, my equation is y equals negative 1/5 x plus 7. Okay, now that you have 2 points, or 2 examples, you can go ahead and see if you can work on the front side of this paper.